I've been investigating why the most talented women in the office are often the ones stalled in middle management. And frankly, the evidence points to a single culprit: your own competence. You and I have seen it. The woman who handles everything, yet her name never comes up for the C-suite. Serious? I'm opening the case file on why your reliability has actually become your cage. By the end of this analysis, you'll know how to stop being the office Swiss Army knife and start being the specialist who gets the corner office. Let's examine the crime scene of your daily 9 to 5. Slightly sarcastic. You arrive early, you leave late, and your inbox? Well, it's a graveyard of other people's problems that you've heroically solved. Measured. I mean, you look like the MVP. But when we look closer at the fingerprints left on the most important projects, yours are missing. Why? Because you were too busy fixing the printer, proofreading a colleague's memo, and holding the team's emotional glue together. This is what I call the middle management ceiling. Firmly, it's built out of your own yeses, right? Every time you prove you're good at everything, you're inadvertently telling the higher-ups that you're too valuable exactly where you are. Regretful, you've become an operational necessity, but a strategic ghost. Coldly, you see, the leadership team doesn't see a future CEO when they look at you. They see a safety net. Pointed, and nobody wants to move the safety net, because if they do, the whole circus falls down. Think about the psychology of the Swiss Army knife for a second. Reasonable? It's a useful tool, right? You keep it in your pocket for emergencies. Direct? But when you need a precision cut, you look for a scalpel. Authoritative? When you need to build a skyscraper, you don't reach for a multi-tool. You hire a specialized architect. Harsh reality? By being the person who can do it all, you've effectively lowered your market value from irreplaceable expert to convenient generalist. You and I need to look at the data of your work week. Factually, if 80% of your time is spent on maintenance tasks, the small fires of the day competence markers, you are actively draining the cognitive energy required for architectural tasks. Those are the high stakes, high visibility moves that actually signal leadership potential. The grave reality? The evidence is clear. High performance isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters with such intensity that you become synonymous with the results. Candidly, if you're currently the person everyone goes to because you just get it done, well, you aren't winning the game. You're being exploited by your own talent. It's time we stop looking at your multitasking as a badge of honor and start seeing it for what it really is: the primary obstacle to your promotion. We need to shift your profile from the fixer to the visionary. And that starts with identifying which parts of your daily routine are actually handcuffs in disguise. Let's look at the evidence. I want to dissect what I call the high utility asset profile. On the surface, it looks like the ultimate professional success. You're fast, you're accurate, and you're the person who never lets a ball drop. But if we put this persona under the microscope, we start to see the cracks in the foundation.
You've become the office Swiss Army knife. I mean, it's a flattering title, right? Until you realize a Swiss Army knife is kept in a pocket, used for small tactical tasks, and never put in charge of the heavy machinery. This is the core of the trap. You've made yourself too convenient to lose. When you are the only person who knows how to fix the specific glitches in the system or handle the difficult clients, well, you become a permanent fixture of the now. And if you're indispensable in the now, you're too expensive to move into the future. Notice the pattern in your daily pings. When a fire breaks out, you see the first message is always directed at you. Reflectively, you solve it in 10 minutes, feel that quick hit of validation, and get back to your work. But here's what's really happening. While you're putting out these tiny fires, someone else is in the boardroom discussing the 5-year strategy. They aren't necessarily more talented than you. They are simply less available. By solving everyone else's micro problems, you've entered a dependency loop. You've conditioned your team to stop thinking because they know you'll do the thinking for them. It's a high-performance version of enabling. Sarcastically, you are effectively paying a competence tax every single day. While you're stuck in the weeds of execution, the visionaries are being promoted for their strategic oversight, which is often just a fancy word for not being bogged down by the details you're currently drowning in. Softly, I want you to look at your to-do list and ask yourself a hard question. Are you an asset or are you an architect? Authoritatively, an asset is a tool used by someone else to build a dream. Measuredly, an architect is the one who designs the dream and decides where the assets go. Directly, if you're currently the person getting it done, you aren't the one deciding what gets done next. Seriously, if you keep solving the how, you will never be invited to define the why. We need to look at your calendar not as a schedule, but as a crime scene where your time is being stolen. Observantly, we have to identify the specific high-utility behaviors that have become your handcuffs. Because the most chilling part of this investigation, you're the one who turned the key. But I found a lead on how to unlock it, and it starts with identifying the 3 specific fixer habits that are currently sabotaging your seat at the table. Let's look at let's call it the forensic evidence of your career progression. There's a cold, analytical truth I need you to face. Being good at everything makes you a high-utility asset, not a high-value leader. In the corporate ecosystem, you see, these are 2 entirely different species. Think of an asset like a piece of high-end machinery. I mean, it's built to be used, maintained, and eventually replaced once it's been depleted. If you're the person who can fix the spreadsheet, handle the client crisis, and proofread the deck all before lunch, you aren't proving your leadership potential. Directly, you're proving your utility. You're showing them that you are a tool that works exceptionally well. Leaders, on the other hand, well, they are meant to be scaled. Their value isn't found in how many tasks they can check off a list, right? It's found in the results they influence.
Here is where our investigation gets uncomfortable. When you become the go-to for every low-level fire, you create a dependency that actually makes you unpromotable. I want you to look at this from a purely logical perspective. Why would your manager move you to a strategic new role when you're currently solving 5 problems for the price of 1? By being too competent at the small things, you've made yourself too expensive to lose and too tactical to promote. Your versatility is no longer an asset. It's your bottleneck. It's the very thing keeping you tethered to the ground while you watch others ascend. We need to shift your identity right now from the helper who saves the day to the high-value specialist who owns the room. If we don't, you're going to burn out completely before you ever get a seat at the table. But to make that shift, we have to identify which specific trap you've fallen into. My analysis of high-performing professionals has revealed 3 distinct fixer habits that act as the primary saboteurs of your growth. One of these is likely your primary mode of operation, and identifying it, well, that's the smoking gun we need to solve this case. Now that we've identified the profile of the fixer habits sabotaging your growth, it's time to move into the cleanup phase. Direct. We're launching what I call the investigation protocol, a 4-step career audit designed to shift you, right, from the person who does everything to the person who actually owns the outcome. Step 1 is your task forensic audit. I want you to look at your calendar, look back at the last week, and treat it like a crime scene. List every single thing you did, no matter how small it seems. Now, look closer.
Highlight the tasks that actually move the needle for your career. I'm talking about the work that gets you noticed by the people who matter, or builds your specific professional legacy. Everything else, those quick favors, the logistical fires you put out for everyone else, that's just background noise. If it doesn't serve your strategy, it's evidence of a wasted resource. Step 2? Well, this requires a bit of undercover work. We're calling this strategic incompetence. I know, it sounds completely counterintuitive for a high performer like you, but stay with me. You need to stop being the fastest person to respond to low-value requests. When that non-urgent message pops up, I want you to just sit in the silence. Let it hang there. By refusing to be the immediate solution, you actually force others to step up and solve their own problems. You aren't being lazy. You're being strategic. You're training the room to stop looking to you for the small stuff. Step 3 is defining your zone of genius. This is the one high-impact skill that makes you a specialist, not a generalist. Ask yourself, what is the one thing you do better than anyone else in your field? That is your signature move. Every hour we spend outside of this zone, well, that's an hour you're diluting your value. We need to narrow your focus until you're known for one big thing, rather than being forgotten for 20 small ones.
Finally, step 4 is the verbal boundary. You have to start saying, I'm not the best person for this, even when you know perfectly well you could finish it in 5 minutes. Here is the psychological secret. Those 5-minute tasks, they are the paper cuts of productivity. They bleed your schedule dry. I'm giving you the permission to be bad at the things that don't matter, so you can be elite at the things that do. You need to reclaim those minutes for your own strategy. But here's the problem. Even with a perfect protocol, there's a psychological barrier most of us hit. I mean, it's a deep-seated fear that if you stop doing it all, you'll suddenly become invisible to leadership. And honestly, there is one specific visibility trap that can make this entire audit backfire if you don't handle it correctly. You need to know how to disappear from the busy work without disappearing from the promotion list. So, here it is, the final verdict of our investigation. The evidence is clear. Your competence isn't actually the problem. It's how you're distributing it. You and I, we've spent so much time sharpening our skills that we somehow forgot to sharpen our boundaries. I mean, we've been operating under the false deduction that more output equals more value. But in the high-performance ecosystem, the most valuable players aren't the ones who can do every job. They're the ones who are indispensable in one specific high-level lane. Look, if you continue to be the person who solves every minor crisis, you are effectively training your leadership to see you as a tactical tool rather than a strategic asset. You're becoming the reliable engine under the hood that nobody thinks about until it breaks, rather than the driver who actually decides where the car is going. Reclaiming your value? Well, it requires a shift in your internal narrative, right? You have to move toward a career where you're respected for what you lead, not just what you do. It's about trading the quick dopamine hit of a completed to-do list for the long-term ROI of strategic thinking. Softly but firmly, you are not doing less. You are doing what matters more. You see, you are optimizing your cognitive load for the breakthroughs that actually move the needle for your career and your company. So, if you're ready to stop being the office janitor and start being the office visionary, hit that subscribe button to Power of Mindset. We're just getting started on your high-performance evolution. I want to hear your strategy in the comments, okay? What's the one task you're going to be strategically incompetent at starting tomorrow? Tell me what you're letting go of so you can finally level up.